Welcome everyone to part 4 of our Secrets of Power revealed card review. Potentially our last review of all of the cards for Secrets of Power. As a reminder, Secrets of Power comes out on November 7th. I'm recording this on the 17th of October. I only have 2 weekends before one of my shops will be beginning the pre-release on November 1st, with, of course, my other shop doing it on the following week. So that, of course, is Bulldog Community Gaming and then Valkyrie Vault. I know Bulldog is doing theirs on November 1st. I'm not sure when Valkyrie Vault will be doing theirs just yet. I would suspect that first week of November, but it really does feel surreal that we are already this close to Secrets of Power. Everything we've seen, the set looks great. Well, I do think the plot mechanic has definitely been well underpowered. It feels slightly worse than Smuggle, because at least I could say there's Smuggle cards, but maybe people will figure out some really good plot cards for the meta. I don't know. What I am saying is that I just really don't have much of a good feeling about plot right now. Nothing's really stood out to me going crazy. There's some okay cards for plot, but there's definitely nothing that just stands out to me that screams, this is definitely going to be meta relevant. But who knows? Maybe I'll be completely wrong on that. So, part 3, we ended here with Evil is Everywhere. So then we're going to begin with Garnandan. And I apologize if you hear any squeaking in the background. My dog happens to be playing with one of her squeaky toy tennis balls. So, Garnandan is an underworld card, really good for Cad Bane, does have plot, and when play, name a card, look at your opponent's hand, and discard a card with that name on it. This is also really good kind of for, deck strategies where you can look at your opponent's hand. You have Bazines in, some Cad decks don't play Bazines, but this might entice them to play Bazines so that you can go Bazine turn 1, look at your opponent's hand. Again, since most of the time you'll be able to record your opponent's hand, because of the fact that at that moment in time, that was public knowledge between you and your opponent. So that means that then next turn you can play Garnandan. This is Underworld, meaning that you get Cad's trigger. You just name a card that you believe still might be in their hand. And then you can go from there, especially if you go first and you know that, you know what's in their hand. So again, you better pray and hope they still have it in hand. But again, the fact of the matter is, since they'll have so many cards in hand, you can at least name one of them and hope they haven't put it in the resources. Or if they are going first, haven't played it out yet. But if it's a high-cost card, a couple high-cost cards, then maybe they might put one in the resource and name the other. Again, it's be easy enough, I believe, if you can get another 1-drop to look at your opponent's hand and then play a Guardian and then name that card again, which is pretty neat. Overall, not a bad card at all. Again, another good Underworld card for Cad Bane to utilize maybe as a side deck option with Bazines being in the side deck as well, or a main deck if you're main decking Bazines. We got General Grievous. This is his first unit in the game. Remember, we had the General Grievous leader that's also in Cunning Villainy. But now we have a General Grievous unit in Cunning Villainy. He has Hidden, and then when his unit is attacked, return to his owner's hand before damage is dealt. So it's the whole gimmick that in the Star Wars The Clone Wars series, he kind of would just retreat. He would run away when things got bad, and then just kind of skitter away. So that's kind of the nature here of, like, your opponent technically can't kill him off because of this, but it'd be very interesting because you could technically give him Sentinel with the Grievous leader, and because your opponent would have to then swing at him for that Sentinel attack and burn one of their wasted attacks on him, it'd be very interesting because then you can immediately grab him back to your hand and then negate the attack here. Because again, if you're someone like from Yu-Gi-Oh! Or someone like that, you normally would get a redirect on the attack if something changed in the battle phase. But here in Star Wars Unlimited, that doesn't actually work. So if you have to swing at a Sentinel and that Sentinel just dies by card effects, then your swing is just wasted at that point. So I like the effect. I don't know how good of an effect it will be, but still, it's a pretty nice effect. The fact that you could blanket attack on your opponent by giving it Sentinel with the Grievous Leader, and then by using his own effect, blanking the attack by having him come back to your hand, and then being able to play him for a 2-cost every turn, giving him Sentinel with the Grievous Leader, and then constantly making your opponent have to burn an attack on this guy, wasting attack on this guy because of his own effect. So I think there is some uniqueness there. Again, he can still die by other means, because he can only jump himself back to hand if he is attacked by a card effect. But still, a pretty neat card there. I think it has some good applications of what it can do. We got the Soulless one. On attack, you may disclose Cunning, and Villainy. If you do, ready to Resources. Very interesting card. So we've seen some aspects of readying resources back all the way, I think, in set 1 with an upgrade that you can attach to someone, and then in swing you can ready a resource. We've seen the Boba Fett leader do it as well, but he's currently banned. And now we have the Soulless one, but again, thanks to the disclose mechanic, you may not always be able to get that off, because you have to review at least 2 Cunning and 1 Villainy, which again can be achieved by revealing, because again, this Grievous returns a hand that already fulfills the Cunning Villainy. You just need to reveal at least 1 more Cunning card. So again, like I said, I'm kind of meh on the plot stuff, but the disclose stuff I feel has way more playability in the game than the plot mechanic does, which kind of makes me sad. They talk about plot being kind of this new mechanic and way to do things, but it feels like it's just not there just yet for me. Most people have said it, and I think it's going to be true, where maybe 1 or 2 plot cards become meta relevant, but that is really about it. I really don't know. I have a feeling maybe the Cad Bane will be the meta plot card for Vigilance Villainy, but other than that, I don't know. Anyways, I like this card. Restanding Resources is pretty nice. I mean, that allows you to extend plays, allows you to do a lot of interesting things. So there's an aspect here, because it is space. You can do the disclosures. You can get resources. This can go in Vader Yellow, by the way, which is pretty nice, because then you could even play out more fighters with Vader Yellow, which is pretty cool. So again, that is not too bad, and it could use even more swarm tactics that way. So a pretty cool vehicle indeed. We have Contempt for Culture, deal 2 damage to a non-vehicle unit, and then create a spy. About as basic it is. It's basically a daring raid for 1 more that just creates a spy token. It's a daring raid can go at your opponent's base and anything on the board, but still, I mean, you could do 2 damage to anything on the board, kill it, and then deal 2 damage, kill it, or try to get that last push for damage or anything like that, and you can create a spy, which is pretty nice. We have Sabe, a new leader, a definitely looked at leader for strong chance to become meta viable in the sec meta. So Sabe states on her front side, and she's a rare leader, by the way, when a friendly unit deals combat damage to a base, you may exhaust this leader. If you do, look at the top 2 cards of the defending player's deck, discard 1 of those cards, put the other one on top. So, and then on her backside, she states she's got raid 1, she flipped for 5, by the way. When this unit deals combat damage to a base, look at the defending player's hand, you may discard a card from it. If you do, that player draws a card. So, this has a very powerful chance to make the biggest splash of all of the sec leaders. Maybe Pride has a good chance. I think Deidre also has a good chance, just because I think Deidre will be just the new aspect of red Villainy Vigilance Control in the sec meta. But I feel like Sabe has a very good chance of making that big splash in the meta, because it's all about discard control. So you're in Cunning and Heroic, so you'll get all the good Cunning cards. You'll get First Strike. You will get your hands on Waylay. You can get your hands on Zuckuss. You can get your hands on Cunning. So there's a lot of stuff you'll be able to get your hands on because of this style of effect. I could see her also being played in red because of Pillage, but I personally first thought I had when I first read her was double yellow, because then we get the Zuckuss effect as well. So Zuckuss was a legendary from LOF that states on attack, name the top card of your opponent's deck. If it is that card, to discard it and you get a +4 when attacking. So, being the fact that we will know what the top 2 cards of our opponent's deck is, or the top card of our opponent's deck at any one time, as long as we deal battle damage to our opponent, we can do that. Not mentioning we can rip cards out of our opponent's hand, so we have the ability to hand rip stuff as well. And I mean, nonetheless, this is a really good card. I mean, the front side, as long as you could deal combat damage to your opponent's base, you can tap her, look at the top 2 cards. You can discard one really good card to your opponent's thing and then put one other card on the top. And then heck, even if you stay on this side of the her front side a little longer, you can still be able to do Zuckuss combos along with that. But again, the front side is nothing, the back side is nothing to scoff at either. I mean, the ability just to look at your opponent's hand, write down what they got, and then slowly rip that hand to pieces and then force them to draw stuff. So being able to rip out those really big, important cards they have is really good. Not mentioning, by the way, I totally forgot, Spark Rebellion, Jam Communications, Tip the Scales, all of which are in this coloration of Cunning. And then Jam and Spark are both in Cunning Heroic. So she has a lot of ability to be a hand rip deck control style deck where we are just sculpting our opponent's deck and sculpting our opponent's hand for a lot of things. So really, really neat card here. Definitely a really cool one. I think might have a really strong chance to make a big splash within the SEC meta, because being able to control what your opponent potentially draws and being able to control what your opponent has in their hand is very, very powerful. 100% powerful indeed. So, definitely will be looking out for this leader. I definitely will be theory crafting what I could do with Sabe, but I feel like Sabe is one of those leaders where I feel like this has strong possibilities. I think Deidre does as well, and I think Governor Price might be that tier 2 fringe deck that comes in, but I think Sabe might be a tier 1 strategy because there's nothing, because again, being able to discard stuff from your opponent's deck and be able to discard big things from your opponent's hand cannot be scoffed at, because that is a good way to slowly rip your opponent's good plays, like their big cost ships, their big cost plays, all just out of their hand, costing them to not have to do it, and not mentioning if some of them have been resourced, because again, most people will resource those high cost cards at the start, then we're slowly milling out those really important cards. As a reminder, a deck can only have 3 of any one card in the deck. So, really cool card there. We got another legendary individual, a resistance ship, really nice. The problem is, I don't know if Holdo's really going to play it much, because Holdo's already green heroic, and typically you play red for Holdo, because you can get some good red cards like Podamrin. Some others would be the Heavy Tactical Bomber. You have those abilities as well from red and BB-8 as well. But nonetheless, the Vigil, if damage would be dealt to another friendly unit, prevent one of that damage. So that's pretty nice. It's a really good just Cunning Vigilance heroic card to help reduce damage by 1. If damage would be dealt to this unit by a card, deal that much damage +1 instead. So the Vigil protects other cards by preventing 1 less damage that would be dealt to them, but damage to itself is get an additional +1. So if it gets dealt 3 damage to the face, it actually gets dealt 4 damage because it gets a +1 on that damage. So it's a pretty cool card. I mean, I like this reducing damage. It's actually pretty nice to combo with the Cassian that already can negate 2 damage. So if Cassian and this are up on the board, Cassian technically will be negating 3 effect damage dealt onto it, which is pretty nice. Not mentioning that it doesn't say effect damage. It would just be damage dealt to another friendly unit, prevent 1 of that damage, meaning that combat damage also can be reduced as well, which is pretty nice. Because again, Cassian already deals with giving a unit -2/-2 when he's attacked. So technically, if a unit with 3 attacks him, Cassian actually won't take any damage from that attack thanks to having the Vigil up. It's a neat card. It does have plot as well. I don't know what you're plotting this out for 7, by the way. This is not a great card, but is it a good card? Yeah, but do I see it making a lot of splash in the next meta? I don't think so. As much as damage reduction is nice and is a 5/9 in the sky, I don't know. The fact is, it does have the big caveat of that if it gets punched in the face, it actually gets punched in the face +1. So, if it hits with any form of like damage or anything like that, like non-effect damage or anything, then it has to take 1 extra, whatever it is, combat or non-effect damage. So there is the caveat there that you have to be cautious of. But I think it's still a good ship. I think it still has some good playability. It's just going to have to matter what people decide to build around with it, because it is a 7 cost and who it really is going to go into. I could see it going to like Luke Skywalker from Spark of Rebellion, just because then you give it like a shield token and help protect it just a little bit longer, because Luke flips over on 6 and you could play this on your 7th turn and then go for the Luke to give it a shield. But a lot of times that makes no sense. Really, on my 7th turn in Vigilance Heroic, usually you want to play the Luke Skywalker Jedi Knight, so you can give the -6/-6, because you could swing something in, kill it, and then give -6/-6 to something, which is pretty nice. I don't know. Maybe there's an aspect where some decks will play it. We'll have to kind of see. Is it a legendary people are probably going to be hunting down? No, so I would not be paying big premium price for this legendary just yet. I will let this one cool down, because I definitely do not think this legendary is going to hold big value on the secondary market. For that. Diplomatic immunity. Okay, attached unit gains when this unit is attacked. When this unit is attacked, so you may disclose Cunning, Vigilance, Heroic. If you do the attacker gets -2 for this attack. So it's another law card, which you can search out with the this guy, Orn Frita, to find this card here. But nonetheless, I think it's a neat card. It's just got a steep cost to it. And I mean steep. But this can be easily achieved by just revealing 2 Vigilance Heroic cards. And that helps the steep cost. It's actually pretty nice to put under that, getting that Cassian Andor legendary we have from the set, because then that Cassian get -4 to something, and we'll take another look at that Cassian Andor, just so you all can be reminded again. Even though we've already checked them out, again, while this unit is defending, the attacker gets -2. So again, pretty nice card to kind of throw under. The Cassian. To throw under that Cassian to just give it a little more survivability. But again, you are playing a pretty steep cost to do it. But you can do it in 2 cards. You just have to be able to reveal 2 cards with this connotation to it. So I think it has some good playability, especially put it under Sentinels, because then the Sentinels have a little more staying power in the game. And again, that +2/+2 is pretty nice as well. But again, it will be interesting to see what this card actually will do considering into the meta. But still, I think putting on their Sentinels is pretty nice. I think that you could put on a new Cassian Legendary would be pretty nice. Just make sure that you always have this always ready to go, so that you can make sure that you give your opponent that -2 attack. But nonetheless, a pretty neat card. We have a Consular Cruiser, just a 5/4/5 Sentinel in the sky. Our first Kazuto unit. And am I impressed with him? No! So he's a 4 in basically kind of the coloration I would expect for Kaz, because Kaz is still going to be under Cunning, Heroic, and Aggression, because the fact is that you are going to use Trench Run to basically manipulate your fighter so they can deal that big damage while they're attached to Kaz. The Kaz leader, by the way. The one that I am now hating the fact that we still have we saw it, but the 3/1 2-drop red that knocks out any upgrade, which I thought JTL leaders were going to have a little more staying power in the current meta, and in the rotation meta, but oh well, looks like to be the case. But nonetheless, he has a raid 2, and then while you control fewer resources than your opponent, this unit gets a +2. So technically, he could be swinging for 6 if you're down resources. And there are those decks. Again, if you play into ramp strategies, especially command strategies, you'll be able to get that extra +2, because there will be times where your opponent will definitely be 1 up on you on resources, or maybe 2 up with resources, because of super laser attack, because of resupply, the resupply ship. a resupply carrier. You have like all that which can be done, but uh, I'm not impressed with him. I mean, at least, he's a pretty good unit. I mean, for Kazuto decks. So, I mean, again, like I said, Kazuto, the leader from JTL, feels like he's going to be in raid because why would you not be in red because of like Trench Run being able to get a fighter +4, and then because Kaz is attached to the fighter, and then when you play it, you attack with the fighter, you don't have to take the penalty for the win attack skill because of Kaz's effect, turning off the win attack skill, but you'd still get the plus. So yeah, it's going to be very interesting. I don't know. I mean, there could be chances maybe where you don't decide to like resource a turn and then giving this Kaz maybe that extra buff for the turn. There is that. There are turns where even I've said like my hand's just too good. I really can't resource anything. But I don't know. I mean, I think he's pretty cool. I won't lie, because if you can get it all off, he can swing for 6 a turn. He would be swinging for 6 a turn on the ground, which is still nothing to scoff at. He's a 2/6 with health. And again, he's also got the resistance tag, so if you wanted to play like Holdo red, you have that resistance tag, so you technically could even pump him up with Holdo's ability to pay 1 tapper, give a resistance unit +2/+2 for the phase. So there are some things you can do with him. I think he's okay. He's not great, but he's okay. And then we have Stolen Starpath unit. Attached unit gains on attack, name a card. The defending player reveals their hand. For each card that with that name, create a spy token. So is it good? It definitely feels like a card that Sabe might play because it can attach to any unit. But the aspect here is it only creates spy tokens. That's really about it. I would prefer more if it had torn another card out of my opponent's hand or something like that. But still, it's okay for a rare. Why is it a rare? I don't know. Is it going to be good? Is Sabe going to play it? I mean, maybe if it was just generic cunning, maybe it would have been better than just straight up heroic. I get why it's the Stolen Starpath unit. It's what the resistance has to try to find Luke in episode 8. That's really about it. I mean, it's nice to create spies. It really definitely feels like there's a lot of cards in this game that are creating spies. They're definitely wanting you to play spies. My goodness, the amount of cards that create spy tokens all over the board is just impressive. Like, they really want you to play spies. But is it good? I can't say so. It's neat because that Sabe can manipulate this card to be good. Because the fact Sabe, when she's on her front side, can technically look at your opponent's hand, and then you'll be able to name a card from their hand and be able to do stuff like that. Again, this is definitely going to be one of those cards where you are legally allowed to write cards down that your opponent have in their hand because of the mechanics of public knowledge, because once they're revealed, they are technically public knowledge to you both. But if you don't write them down and then your opponent folds them back up again and you ask what's your opponent's hand, your opponent doesn't have to disclose that to you because no longer is it public knowledge. It is now private knowledge to your opponent and your opponent alone. So, I'm not sold on this card being good, but again, usually once we see a leader, we see like a few cards get released that do things with that leader. But yeah, it's meh. It's a meh card. So that's all I'll say about that rare. Why that needs to be a rare, I don't know. There could have been better cards to give that rare slot to altogether. This could have been a common. Now we have Faith in Your Friends. Search the top 3 cards of your deck for a card and draw it. Then you may disclose. So this is afterwards. So the first effect that you can do is then search top 3, you just got a card and draw it. I don't know why we don't just put it into our hand. Why do we have to actually draw it? Why is that? Why do they so adamant about look top 3 and draw it? Usually most people just immediately put it into your hand. They look at top 3, put it in the hand, and then they put the other 2 back on top of their deck or bottom of the deck. I don't know. I don't know why they have to say draw it. Just put it in your hand. I get why draw it, because typically the other 2 go on the bottom and this one gets put on, then you draw that one. So anyways, as a secondary effect of this card, you can reveal Cunning, Heroic. If you do, create 2 spy tokens. The search 3 is pretty nice. I think a good just top 2, search top 3 cards and grab a card that you need for next turn. or grab a card that you're going to use for maybe your 4th turn play is still pretty good overall. I mean, you don't have to disclose this to create spies. Well, spies would be nice because of Sabe, because of getting that extra couple of tokens to then have that raid 2 on a couple more hitters and spamming out bodies is pretty nice. Do be mindful, this is a steep cost to pay for that, but nonetheless, it's a pretty cool card. 100%, really cool card. I like the top 3 search. I think a lot of people may not be able to do this, pay this high amount of a disclosure, because this could easily be counteracted by 2 of these, but then you'll have to disclose at least 1 more cunning card to get it. But nonetheless, it's a pretty neat card. The search 3 is really nice, and then if you can get it to pay, I think creating 2 more spies isn't bad. Like I said, they're really pushing spies in this set. They really want us to make spy tokens. They really want us to make spy tokens. Galen Erso is here, everybody. The man that unknowingly created the Death Star laser, being manipulated, of course, by Director Krennic. His when play, name a card. While this unit is in play, each non-leader card an opponent owns with that name, including those not in play, lose all abilities and can't gain abilities. So basically, it's a card of name something your opponent you don't really like, and then just remove all the abilities from it. Do you not like Devastator? And by the way, it's name a card. Remember, it's not name the subtitle of a card like Devastator, Haunting the Rebellion. It just name Devastator, and then all Devastators in your opponent's field and in their hand and in their deck all lose their abilities. So, really cool, interesting card. It has plot as well, so you could plot it out. But a pretty neat card. I mean, the fact is that you just name any card, and because, again, you're not naming the subtitles of the card, you're just naming a card. And it has to be owned with that name. So, name a card while this unit is in play, each opponent that owns that name. Okay, so he just comes in, you name a card like Devastator, every single Devastator dies. It's much like the same with, if you might think, well, why don't I have to name the subtitle of that card? It's much like the 11th cost, it's the other, it's not the Executor, it's the blue Vigilance Villainy 11 costed big ship that you see running around like in Piet Blue that states when played, when defeated, choose one of your opponent's cards on the board, kill it, and then they have to discard every card with that same name from their hand and deck. So it's got that same philosophy. So because you would say that the Annihilator, there's a name. So the Annihilator comes down, you choose Luke Skywalker on your opponent's board, they kill Luke Skywalker, and because there are now 3 sets of Luke Skywalker, the LOF Luke Skywalker, the JTL Luke Skywalker, and the Spark Rebellion Luke Skywalker, you're not naming Luke Skywalker like Jedi Knight from Spark Rebellion, you're just naming Luke Skywalker. So you kill that Luke Skywalker, and your opponent has to discard everybody from their hand and deck that has the name Luke Skywalker. So they're not going into you have to name the subtitle of the card, you just need to name Luke Skywalker or Devastator or Vigil or Drayan or anything like that, like Kazuto. So it's non-leader, so you can't name the leader. Again, it's really important because remember, there are leaders have units cards as well, like Qui-Gon Jinn is a leader and a unit. But still, pretty neat card. I mean, the ability just to turn off all abilities and can't gain abilities is really nice. So if you're playing up against like a green villainy red deck that plays both Devastators, the 10 cost Devastator that has Overwhelm, and then when played, it can nuke something off the board for how many resources you have. And you have the red Devastator that allows you to do indirect damage of your choice. It allows you to do indirect damage, but also allows you to choose where the indirect damage goes. You can just turn off those effects, which is really nice. So, again, he's very squishy at a 3-5, but still, I mean, coming him down on a 4 and force your opponent to have to out him is still pretty nice. Again, this will be more of a side deck card because, again, that first game, you're not going to know what your opponent's on. You won't really know what like their leader or your deck is. You might have an idea, but he might be more of a side deck card to come in for like games 2 and 3 so that you can negate some of your opponent's big plays. Like you could name like Hot Shot Blaster, and while its unit is in play, each non-leader unit card owns that name, including those not in play, lose all abilities. So you could name Hotshot Blaster, and since Hotshot Blaster is that name, it loses all those abilities and can't gain back its abilities. So So we'll have to kind of see how that is ruled. But how I'm reading this, if you were to name like Hotshot Blaster couldn't actually trigger its smuggle mechanic because it loses all its abilities. So it would lose its smuggle mechanic and just become a card in your smuggle area. So it's kind of interesting. Maybe that's how they would rule it, but still, I think it's a neat card. It's definitely a side deck card on that, but still, it should not be scoffed at. You just name a card and your opponent loses all those abilities of that card until they remove this. It's still nice. So just keep an eye out for that one. I think it's got a side deck worthiness to it. Next up, we got Willrow Hood. The one guy from the 5th movie that's in Bespin. That I didn't even know this guy even had a name. I can vaguely remember people pointing him out in the movie, but while this unit has exactly one friendly upgrade on it, that upgrade can't be defeated or returned by hand by enemy card abilities. That's about it, folks. If you got an upgrade on him, he just can't lose it. That's fascinating. Let's just move on. I don't know if there's any playability for this, but still. Okay. Well, I guess it can go in Gar. It can go into Gar Saxon, because Gar Saxon, you could then upgrade this, and then Gar Saxon can give you that extra additional attack, and you can't lose the then you can't actually lose the you'll always be able to keep that extra attack from him until someone comes and kills him. So, okay. But it's still not good. The Eye of Aldahani. The Eye of Aldahani. So at the start of your next phase, for each enemy unit, its controller must pay 1 or exhaust that unit. Okay, I like this one. So at the start of the next action phase, for each enemy unit, its controllers must pay 1 or exhaust that unit. So the start of the next action phase, so once again, you have your regrouping phase, which is where you regroup everything, and then your action phase. Then you'll do your regrouping phase. Your basically that's where you'll draw your 2, and then play your resource, and then regroup everybody, and then your next action phase. So it's interesting. So you could be, if you have the initiative, you go this first, the eye, and then your opponent has to then respond to that eye with the fact that they either exhaust their units or pay 1 to keep them up. So in a very late game, where they might have like very powerful units, they might have to just pay that 1, which then might have to force them, or be even in the early game, there could be uses for this as well. So you could easily be able to force your opponent to have to counteract this. It's still a very neat card indeed. I mean, that pay 1 is very annoying, and that or exhaust a unit can very much turn games of where you just play this as your first action if you have the initiative and force your opponent to have to respond to either paying that 1, losing out to potentially their next turn. And it's also pretty good for decks that spam bodies, like Cal Kestis does one of its bodies, but so let's say Cal flips on 4, so Cal Kestis flips on 4, but maybe they need to play a couple more cards, or maybe they want to do a Hotshot Blaster for a turn or something like that. Well, maybe the next turn after they flipped, and you dealt all that, then you do the eye, and your opponent might have to then decide, let's say they have 3 units, well, then they can't Hotshot Blaster, even if say they were at 5, because Hotshot Blaster needs a 3 onto it. Typically because remember, Cal Kestis, Cal Blue, I think is the more common Cal Kestis people play, but still, Hotshot Blaster just needs cunning to smuggle itself out from the resources. So I like the card. It's a really good card. I think it has a really good playability in it. I could see it being played in mains and in sides because of its ability to force your opponent to have to sit there and kind of decide on what they want to do. Do they just decide to keep their bodies up by paying the 1, but lose out on a chance of continuing plays, like losing out on their turn 4 plays? Or do they exhaust everything, keep all their resources up, but they lose out on any tempo for that turn, any ability to hit or attack? So it really does play a really cool mind game, because your opponent will have to decide whether or not they want to lose out on playing any cards that turn, depending on how many units they have to rest, or they rest everything, being able to play cards, but they're not going to be able to swing or do any attacks like that. So I definitely see this as a very good card to keep your eye out on. I think a lot of Vigilance decks might play this. I could even see this being played in not Out of Aspect, because Out of Aspect, it only costs you 3. So it'd be very interesting to see what people decide to do with this card. But in my personal opinion, I don't think it'd be scoffed at the fact of forcing your opponent to have to pay that one and really disturbing their plays, either by exhaustion or by the fact of paying that one. I can also see this in a lot of control strategies as well, just to force your opponent to have to really think about their plays if they want to do anything with control. So I can see it as a control card as well. We got another legendary, and let's talk. If a friendly unit left play this phase, this event costs 3 less to play, so technically it would go down to being a 6 cost. Each friendly unit captures an enemy non-leader unit in the same arena. So it's a pretty nice legendary. Do I think it's gonna charge big on the secondary market? Because let's be honest, even though legendaries have popped up more commonly in sets, there's still like some will always be like those legendaries that people are going to have to pay pretty big money for. Is this one of those? I don't think so. I like the effect though. I like the effect that you could just like each friendly unit captures an enemy non-leader. So the problem that you have there is that one guy cannot capture all of your opponent's stuff. It will have to be one only. You'll have to have, so if your opponent has 4 guys, you have to have 4 guys. But still, I mean, you could still disturb some interesting plays by going like this and then scooping up a few guys and putting them under your guys and being able to do that, especially if your deck is able to spam bodies easy. Like space decks can spam bodies pretty easily, but again, the problem is it has to be in that same arena. So it will depend on where the meta goes. So this card ever really could see viability, because if the meta goes into space, then having enough space bodies is pretty nice. But if the meta goes to the ground, but your deck is space, you're not going to play this. So it's going to matter how people look at where the meta is going to be in sec to really make this card worth it. Do I think this card's going to charge pretty good money on the secondary? No. I would say wait at least even a month after the set drops, and this card will probably go down pretty harsh in price because it's very restrictive on how it can really be played. But I do like the effect. Don't get me wrong. I think the effect has some really good playability to it. There should be nothing scoffed about disturbing your opponent's turn, especially if you can swing one of your guys into one of your opponent's guys, kills them, and then next turn steal stuff, or even watch your opponent play a couple guys on the board that are rested that they're going to use next turn, and then just go and capture them, which is still pretty nice overall. So yeah, I think it's a really cool thought process here with this card here. It's a really nice one. Again, we've seen capture become kind of more prevalent in this set, so it's nice to have it back. Again, we still don't have much of a way to get capture cards back to our hand besides what we have from the older set 2 and 3 sets, but that's really about it. But still, really cool card. I don't think it's going to make much of a splash in the meta, but still, it's a neat legendary indeed. Valiant Commando for 3/3/3, which is pretty nice, and Aggression Heroic. When this unit deals combat damage to a base, you may defeat this unit if you do 3 damage to that base. So this feels like a really good card to end out games very fast, very quick. So this is actually a pretty good card for the original Leia that allowed you to attack with 2 rebel units. It's also pretty cool because if you just need to get that last push of damage on your opponent's base, you can hit for the 3. And if your opponent just doesn't have a way to counter this, you can go for the 3. And then you can kill this unit off and then have that last 3 damage kill your opponent's base. So I could definitely see a lot of games going, anybody with Aggression Heroic as either their leader, or thanks to having an aggression base and a heroic leader, are going to be playing this card because this is 6 damage on the attack. When this unit combat damage to a base, you could just nuke him and deal 6 straight damage to your opponent's base. That is 6 damage they have to counteract there. And for a lot of decks, maybe they don't have that ability. For 25 health bases, maybe they can't counteract that fast enough. There's a lot of really good things I think this card can do 100%. So, but very interesting. I think this card is going to be seeing a lot of play, but I'm glad we're seeing some very interesting. I will say this set has some very interesting mechanics. They're really pushing into it, and I like that we've got a lot of interesting mechanics in the game. While some are good, some are bad, at least they are going in some very interesting paths with how they're writing up their cards to do stuff. I like this card 100%. And just a really good way to put 6 damage on your opponent's base. That is really, really nice. Also, I believe Luthen can No, Luthien. I think Luthien can even trigger from this guy because I think Luthien just states that a unit has to die. We won't worry about Luthien's leader, but I think a unit just has to die to get his effect to go off. Still, 6 damage on a base. Be cautious of this because I think this can help you finish out games. Because if you play this like late into the game and your opponent only has like 6 damage and they can't stop this soldier from attacking, you just swing this soldier, pop it, 6 damage on your opponent's base, you win the game. So I see this helping to push for that end game stage 100%. So be on the lookout for this card to be very much meta viable and a lot of aggression heroic strategies. Strike Force X-Wing. When played, you may deal 2 damage to a ready unit. Pretty nice. That is pretty nice. It does have plot as well, but I like this when played. You may deal 2 damage to a ready unit. That is really nice there to push for that damage threshold. I'm definitely playing this in Poe Dameron because if you can do this on this is also really good for Luke as well. Holy crap, I didn't even realize it, but yeah, Luke can do this as well. So when played, you may just deal 2 damage to a ready unit. If you swung with a fighter, tap Luke, maybe kill it off. It only has 3 damage points on it. Also, red 4, red 5 can really be helpful with this. So if you have red 5 standing and you play this out, then swing red 5, you can do another 2 damage or something else. Really cool fighter, 100%. Poe and Luke, I think, will 100% be taking use of this because Poe's black 1, as long as you have a Poe leader unit or upgrade, you can deal 1 damage to one of your opponent's units. So that is pretty nice indeed. And like I said, here is the card. I think I spoiled it. I thought we had gotten it earlier. But yeah, we'll just talk about this one really quick before we go to this one because I already kind of spoiled him. I thought he was spoiled in part 3. Outer Rim Constable, he's basically just a Fang fighter on the ground. He's just 1 less health Fang fighter on the ground. Just when played, you may defeat any upgrade. Why can't it just be defeat non-unique upgrades? I don't know. Maybe they just don't want the JTL leaders to be meta. They don't want the JTL leaders to be good. Screw the JTL leader. Screw them all. When rotation happened, I thought, hey, we're going to lose a lot of this random upgrade hate. We're going to be able to play a lot more cooler deck strategies. JTL is going to be really good for the meta. No, here's your new Fang fighter on the ground in aggression. So aggression never loses its Fang fighter. Why do we need this printed? Come on, can't you just give JTL leaders a chance? And maybe if JTL leaders become too meta, listen, they could have easily had removed this card, kept non-unique upgrade hate in the game to help deal with those, the non-unique upgrades like shields, experiences, and all the generic upgrades. But then allow unique upgrades to play around a little bit in the game, especially JTL leaders. And heck, if those cards become too strong in post-rotation metas, so because right now they wouldn't be good moving into even set 6 because Fang Fighter, Confiscate, all the Poe Dameron, the 5-drop are all still legal in the game, but you could have easily said, hey, we're going to leave the JTL leaders for rotation. We're going to see how they look and how they feel and how they play. And then, hey, if they really become problematic, or maybe we do need to print a new generic upgrade kill card, then we can print that in a later set. And allow the JTL leaders to play around a little bit. Or maybe the JTL leaders automatically make a humongous splash in the meta. I don't know. A lot of the JTL leaders are losing really good space cards. So a lot of them are losing some of what they really like to use in the meta. So, yeah, we're losing them, and we're just going to lose them again once we rotate. Now, again, this is the only card we're really seeing. I don't think we saw much out of set 4 and 5 for unique upgrade hate. So, 1 unique upgrade hate card. Well, I guess Kit Thistle's Ethos Bright's a unique upgrade hate. Can kill off unique upgrades as well, like JTL leaders, but that's a 5-cost fighter that your opponent has to see. So, and again, it's also an aggression heroic. So, unless they're playing aggression heroic, there's no way to any other color wouldn't be able to. And it's good. I mean, this is just generic red. So red's the only one right now that can actually kill unique upgrades or any upgrade. But still, I'm not happy about it. I thought JTL leaders were going to have a chance in the upcoming meta. Maybe they still will, but they're now as squishy as they were before. I don't know. Maybe it is time that JTL leaders get a rata the state that they're all like Luke Skywalker. They can't be removed from their fighter by card effects. and really make them more viable in the game. They just feel so squishy now that we have another card that could just knock them out. While we had Kits Vithos Aethersprite, that was very much exclusive to only heroic strategies. Now this is just generic. So again, both are exclusive to aggression, but I would have rather maybe seen this get printed in, say, set 8, when they saw what set, post-rotation, what set 7 meta looked like, the Lawless Time meta looked like, with the JTL leaders not really having to fear getting murked off the board. But oh well, I guess we're not going to worry about that. All right, so after my rambling and hatred of this card, the Inner Rim Coalition, when defeated, you may ready a unit that costs 5 or less. Pretty nice there, a 6/6/5 that can ready a unit that's 5 or less, which is good. I mean, it's pretty nice. That's just another hit you can just swing on your opponent's base. Pretty good. Again, it isn't official, so Mon Mothma can play this out of aspect. Then we have Pursue the Lead. Choose a player. That player discards a card from the hand. If it costs 3 or less, create a spy token. Just a really good discard card, and then if they discard something with 3 or less, you just create a spy, which is it's a nice bonus attached to there, but it doesn't really matter. It's another good way to discard. Again, it's another good way if you want to play like a Sabi red strategy. But again, like I said, my first Sabi deck will probably be Sabi double yellow. Will be Sabi yellow, but still, pretty neat card. We have the Blue Ace. This is also, of course, from the Resistance TV show. Ambush on attack, ready an exhausted enemy unit. So it comes with a humongous caveat that you have to on attack exhaust an enemy, is ready an exhausted enemy unit. But if you go for the ambush and your opponent doesn't have anything to restand, it's very interesting. But again, this is just another card for Kazuto to play around with. This is a card that Kazuto is going to use because you're going to be removing the horrible attack stat on this with Kazuto's effect. So that's the thing. This is just another card that Kazuto can attach to. It's a fighter as well, so you can remove the stupid or the really bad on attack skill. You can then swing with it. Don't have to rest anyone. It's a fighter on it, so you can use Trench Run on it, and it's a pretty good one because I think Kaz gives a +4. If I'm remembering him right, I think he gives a +4 or +3 to the whatever fighter he's attached to. So even though, yeah, it sucks that this is sitting right here, it's a dumb little effect, which means if you happen to play it and ambush it and your opponent has a ground unit exhausted, they do get to restand it. But, I mean, it's definitely a card that 100% tells me it's a Kazuto card. It's going to be played in Kazuto because Kazuto can turn off the effect and basically have no repercussions for playing this fighter at all. And yeah, I know the Fireball is played, and I know the Fireball is played in a lot of cunning heroic strategies, but it's a 3/3 Sky that ambushes. Typically it dies, and the only fallback is it might kill itself on the regrouping phase. But still, I like the Fireball over this thing. But again, just another fighter that helps support Kazuto, and just get Kazuto another fighter in the game, especially rotation, where Kazuto is going to lose a couple of really good fighters that it can attach to. Or transports as well, because the Millennium Falcon from Spark of the Rebellion is going to be going out of rotation. So, pretty neat card. Pretty cool card. Implicate. Choose a unit for this phase against Sentinel, and when this unit is attacked, create a spy token. A pretty neat card, just a good way to like spam tie tokens. It is generic yellow, so Governor Price could play it if you wanted to do a Price yellow strategy. So that way you could turn one of your units into a Sentinel and then force your opponent to have to create more spy tokens from it. But nonetheless, just another way to create spy tokens, especially because it's when this unit is attacked, create a spy token. So if it has to get attacked like 2 to 3 times, even 3 times, you created 3 spy tokens before the unit dies. And that's 3 more things. For instance, Governor Price's reminder gets pumped up for every single token that is on the board. So, yeah, pretty cool card. I think it has some okay playability. I don't think it's going to have a lot of playability because it will matter what strategy you want to play it in. But for like a Governor Price strategy, it's not too bad. It is a pretty fun one because if you can give it to a unit that has a big stat line booty, that your opponent might have to throw like all their units added to kill it, it's a pretty strong card because then you could just get value off of it. I think what makes it really good for me, that value of when this unit is attacked, create a spy token. It does like. Every time it's attacked, create a spy token in response, which is pretty nice. Our next unit will be the Remote Escort Tank. When played, give Sentinel for the phase. and it has plot. So pretty nice right there if you can get the implicate onto this being a 5/5. Well, it already has Signal, but we could give that win. But still, it's not a too bad of a plot card you could plot out for 6 when your leader flips, just so you can have a little bit of protection. But is it good? I mean, at least you got a 5/5 Sentinel that can at least keep you alive for maybe a turn. Giant Voss, not only did he get a unit in the game, he got himself a leader as well, a rare leader. Hey, folks, did you know that ECL, or Energy Conversion Lab, from set 1 was one of those annoying cards that everyone hated? Did you know we need one as a leader now? Action tap of discard a card that costs 6 or more from your hand. Play a unit that costs 5 or less from your hand. Paying its cost, it gains Ambush for the face. He flips for 7. He has Overwhelm, and he does the exact same thing, action, but he's not restricted about what you actually discard. Play a unit from your hand, it gains Ambush for the face. So, he's ECL the card. That is it. He's an ECL leader the card. Now, he does come with a little bit of a caveat where ECL is an epic action, but he does come with the caveat that he's a little better than ECL. ECL is an epic action only once the entire game you can ambush a guy that costs 6 or less, and then you could bring a guy out that costs 6 or less and give an ambush for the face. So he does the exact same thing, but he has to discard. So his front side is a little more restrictive because you have to discard a 6 cost or higher guy out of your hand to then give a 5 cost or less guy ambush for the face, paying its cost. But on his backside, he's just like discard any card, a 1 cost, a 2 cost, who cares? Just bring everything out, ambush. Ambushes everywhere, everybody, ambushes everywhere. I mean, there is the aspect that he is a little bit of a steep of a cost, but right now in the current rotation era, before we rotate, you still have great ways to ramp. You still have Super Laser Tech. Funny enough, you can even spend out a 6 cost guy, give Super Laser Tech, ambush into something, and then immediately put Super Laser Tech immediately into your resources, dealing 2 straight damage to your opponent. But yeah, I know people aren't going to like him. I know people are definitely going to hate him being a leader in the game, but he does come with the caveat that you have to discard a card, and a lot of times you can lose cards pretty fast in this game, depending on your strategy. And depending if you don't have any cards in your deck that can even draw you anything, you're going to lose cards pretty fast. That's why I think, while it's nice that Bail Organa got a leader that doesn't have an epic action, he does cost you 2 cards per turn to flip him over. So yeah, I know people aren't gonna like him. I think we're gonna have to see how he plays. There is the chance that maybe he's going to get banned, but there also is a chance that because his front side is very restrictive. You have to have a 6 cost or higher guy in your hand, or 6 cost or higher card in your hand to discard. So that does mean if you want to ambush in a 5 cost or less, you have to discard really good cards for the late game to get him to go off. Now again, that's not impossible to do. We do have stuff like salvage and to bring those big ships back, paying their costs and giving them 2 damage, which is just generic green, by the way. We do have cards like reprocess that can put them back at the bottom of our deck, so they're out of our grave. But I mean, the front side is the more restrictive side. The back side, I think, is where people are going to be annoyed, is that you just discard any card. 1 cost, 2 cost, cards you don't even want anymore, just plop them over there, bring out all your guys with ambush. So I think, without a doubt, the back side is going to be the more annoying side. The front side, without a doubt, is going to be the more restrictive side. I think it's more friendly. The back probably should have continued with the exact same text as the front side. The back feels a little too overpowered, in my opinion, of discard any card, give anything ambush. So if you play him in like a blue strategy, you can easily be able to discard a 1-drop and then ambush in Darth Vader from LOF, give a shield token to 1 unit that you're not going to ambush, kill the unit with the shield token on it, ambush into the other unit, and just kill it. So there is that as well. So It'll be very interesting to see what people want to build with this, but I think this guy is going to see some meta relevancy in the game because of the fact that this guy could just ambush in anything he needs. And right now in rotation, he still has Super Laser Tech, which he can make ambush in for basically discard of a card. He also has the ability to use for resupply. He could use the resupply carrier as well, and he only needs to get up to 7 and then flip. So, and then once he's flipped, he's a way better card. So I could see a lot of decks just trying to ramp into him for his 7, ramp your 7, flip him over, and then just literally watch your opponent cry as you just pitch cards and bring out big bodies for cheap. So, or for like ambush out for cheap, basically. So at that point, it becomes ECL everything out of your hands at the cost of 1 card. So, I don't know. He doesn't feel like he should have been printed. He should have been printed. Like I said, the front side feels more fair because you have to discard something at 6 cost or higher from your hand to get a 5 cost or lower unit to gain ambush. But on the back side, no, he's not fair at all. He's just discard any card from your hand, give anything ambush. So I will have to kind of see what people play with him. I definitely see him as being a very strong deck that people are going to try for the meta. He may be rampant. Just be on the lookout for him, folks. This guy is probably going to be out there. Like I said, I think he's probably going to be played in Vigilance to give you Vader from LOF, which is really good on an ambush effect. And because then after that, you also will get as well Power of the Dark Side. You'll get Super Laser Blast. So I really think this guy's going to see a lot of play in with Vigilance as his choice of color. I like him. I just don't think he's all that fair. I don't know if he should have been printed. But we'll have to kind of see. Maybe he does something. Again, we'll have to kind of see. Again, some of these leaders right now might be quite broken, might be quite a problem right now. But they may not be that problem once we rotate when they lose a lot of the really good stuff we have. But we'll have to kind of see. Time will tell if he is printed broken. When we have Condemn, while this unit is attacking, it gains on attack. The defending player may disclose Vigilance Heroic. If you do, this unit gets -6 for this attack and lose all other abilities. So, very neat card here. You don't get any aspect here of like this this restriction here. So there's no buff to this card. So this would just be like something for like guard to play just so you can get the guard buff. But again, this is a very interesting restriction. It's not that your opponent has to disclose like a cunning or a vigil or a heroic card to stop this. They have to be specifically in vigilance villainy to get this to work. So this could definitely be a card that some vigilance villainy decks play and maybe side out in like matches where your opponent is in this combination as well. So this card is really good against every other deck that because your opponent will never be able to. So if your opponent is in any aspect of heroic, they're not going to play it. If they're in any aspect where they're not in vigilance, they're not going to be able to disclose, period. So as long as they're not in vigilance and they're not in as long as they're not the vigilance heroic or not in vigilance, period, you can easily play this card and never get that steep restriction on the card that pains you. But if they are in that color, then this is easy card just to side out and then put in something else. So I think Gar is going to play it because, again, it's another upgrade that Gar can throw on it. We do know the comedian, the Lamasu, can play this because Lamasu wants to play upgrades. So there are a couple cards that will probably play this. I don't think we're going to see a lot of playability with this, but still, this is a card that probably may be just a side deck only card or a card that some decks play, but then side out if you happen to be in a matchup where this is very much viable to hurt you. So there is that. So it's a neat card. Is it playable? Yes. Is it going to see play? I don't know. We have the first light. I believe we have a first light in Vigilance Villainy, which is a great card, and now we have one in because we have to have for Drying Boss. It already has a naturally ambush. Anyways, when this unit attacks and defeats enemy unit, you may straight up draw a card. It does have plot, does have ambush. So this kind of feels like something you're going to play with Drying Boss because it is his flagship. It is 7. Drying Boss splits for 7. You'll play this out naturally as ambush. So just something to think about. Other than that, it's a pretty nice card. I mean, an ambush space unit that can draw you a card at 5/7. That's a pretty good card. Pretty good card indeed. Rexinian Assembly, just a separatist official, again, just for the command color 6/5. That's a pretty nice coloration. We have Reconnaissance. Pay 2 for command. If you control a ground unit and a space unit, just draw 2 cards. So basically, as long as you got a card in both arenas, you could draw one. Pretty good idea. Well, I guess I was going to say maybe Invader Yellow, but Vader Yellow actually doesn't usually play any ground units, like, at all. So, yeah, because Vader Yellow typically always plays in space and is so space heavy with it. So, it's kind of interesting. It's going to be very niche. Oh, if it's ever going to be played. Definitely, as you could feel like a lot of these cards that feel like they're like never going to see play in the normal Premier format, definitely are going to see play in like a Padawan format, or even draft and sealed formats. As we'll talk about cards that got revealed above all of this stuff. There's some cards that you could definitely tell they're just slop cards. They're just slop cards to put in for draft purposes, draft or sealed purposes. And there are going to be cards like that where they're going to be in there to be for just draft and seal purposes because that's the only time you're ever going to play them. This feels like one of those cards where definitely it's just going to be draft purposes only. Then we have our Lurking Snub Fighter. When played, you may exhaust a unit. It is an Underworld card. That is really good for CAD, and you can plot it out as well. That's all we're going to say. It's another nice Underworld card for Cad Bane to utilize, especially that exhaust a unit on play, which then allows CAD to do stuff with it as its turn 3 play. We have Biguel. Look at your opponent's hand, then choose a non-leader unit that opponent controls that costs 6 or less and returns to owner's hand. So basically, it's cunning with an extra step. Cunning that, basically it's just cunning with an extra step, but it's Waylay, but a little more restrictive. Waylay can't return non-leader cards, but can return anything back to your opponent's hand. This, again, Biguel is just a look at your opponent's hand, and then just basically return a unit that costs non-leader unit that costs 6 or less to your opponent's hand, which still is nice. That is pretty nice for Sabe as well, so if you did have the stolen Star Path unit attached with Sabe, you could easily then name whatever you spawn back to your opponent's hand, or name a card in their hand, and basically go from there. Again, it should never be scoffed at. Looking at your opponent's hand and having public knowledge of what your opponent controls is still very, very nice. Being able to kind of plot out your moves with what your opponent has, and kind of thinking about what they have, what they'll play next, and all of that is pretty nice. So, pretty cool, interesting card indeed. It's just Waylay, but kind of a worser Waylay, because Waylay could return any non-leader unit back to your opponent's hand. This is a little restrictive on 6 cost, but still nice to have at least another pseudo Waylay in the game. We have Kinoloy. This unit gets +1 for each other exhausted friendly unit. So basically, if you're playing in a spam strategy, you can just buff him up on the board. So that's basically about it for him. One Way Out. Of course, this is all the Cassian Andor scene where he gets stuck in the prison, and then they're building all the stuff for the Empire. One Way Out. Attack with a unit, it gets +1 and gains Overwhelm for this attack. If it attacks a unit, the defender loses all abilities for this attack. It's interesting that we're now seeing like a lot of like remove abilities from cards. So it's very interesting. We're seeing a lot of like that ability to where we can just remove the ability from our opponent's cards while we're attacking them, which is pretty interesting that we're getting more cards that are kind of doing that. But still a nice way just to kind of help push for games and help gain that overwhelm. So being able to give something overwhelm, attack your defender, they can't even use their abilities or anything like that, which is pretty nice. So being able to just like kind of swing over stuff that's kind of a nuisance and then overwhelming into it is pretty good. Oppression breeds rebellion. If a friendly unit that was defeated while attacking this phase, draw 3 cards. Hey, look at that. Did you know this? This was defeated while attacking this phase. Friendly unit was defeated while attacking this phase. So basically with this combat, you may defeat this unit if you do 3 damage to this base. So that's a pretty nice combination you could do there. If you got this up as turn 3, you can swing, deal this 6 damage, and then you can go Oppression Breeds Rebellion to do this. This is also nice, of course, for Luthen Rao, because remember, Luthen Rao's leader wants you to punch stuff into your opponent, so they want you to actually be killing your own units to then get effects. So this is a really nice card. I mean, it's literally just when a unit is defeated while attacking this phase, deal 3 cards. Again, This is a unit when attacking this phase. It was defeated technically. I guess it wouldn't be that. So this is only really going to be, now reading these two cards, this card would not be able to trigger with this card because that unit was not attacking. Technically, once the attack is completed, then the Valiant Commando can kill itself by its effect. But this card here states it has to die. So this is more of like if you wanted to play 𝐒𝐓𝐿 and then smash your stuff into it. So again, that's a really nice card. This is really good for 𝐒𝐓𝐿 because it's literally just 𝐒𝐓𝐿 be able to, because your guys are wanting to attack and wanting to die. So 𝐒𝐓𝐿 swing it in and kill it is really good. Again, this is actually pretty good also for Leia because again, Leia can utilize this because remember, Leia for Sparking Rebellion is about swinging with one rebel, tapping her, and swinging with another rebel. And then because you could swing one rebel into dying, and then you could swing another rebel. You could swing one rebel into the base, and then swing a second rebel into something else and have it kill itself, and then draw 3 cards after that, which is pretty nice. But again, I think it's more for 𝐒𝐓𝐿 because 𝐒𝐓𝐿 really wants you to be killing your guys off for effects. We have another legendary in Obi-Wan Kenobi, a legendary I think 100% is going to charge some money on the secondary market. So, when this unit deals combat damage to a base, discard a card from the defending player's deck. For this phase, you may play that card with the discard pile, ignoring its aspect penalties. That's right, folks. Do you like discarding cards from your opponent's deck and then making sure? So, this is how this is interesting. So, 𝐒𝐓 states on her front side that after you deal combat damage to a base, you can tap her. So again, we'll show this. So you can actually chain these in a very specific order. When a friendly deals combat to the base, you may exhaust leader. If you do, look at the top 2 cards of your defending player's deck, discard one of those cards. Obi-Wan states that when this unit deals combat damage to a base, discard a card from the thing. So you can get both of your opponent's cards into their discard pile by chaining 𝐒𝐓 as the first effect that resolves. So basically, you just deal combat damage, then trigger 𝐒𝐓 first. Look at top 2, discard one, put the other one on top, and then Obi-Wan will discard the second card off of that. And then now you can play that card from your discard pile, from their discard pile, ignoring an aspect penalty. It's not for free. You still have to pay the cost. So if it's something pretty high, you'll probably discard the high cost and leave the low cost card. But still, this card is going to be charging money because this is just generic for any deck that is playing Cunning Heroic. This is going to see a lot of play because it's just straight up a discard 1 damage from 1 card from your opponent's base deck. Whether or not you can play that card or not is on you, but basically, if you say you ran into say a Vigilance Villainy deck, and then you discarded Power of the Dark Side, pay 3, Power of the Dark Side, have fun. I'm just going to Power Dark Side for myself. But yeah, so it's a really neat, really fun card, and like I said, I 100% expect this card to be charging money on the secondary market. This is going to be like the Anakin and the Darth Vader that really saw a lot of play and were very strong, powerful legendaries from LOF that they charged money for those. They actually kept value in the secondary market. Like I said, I think there's a lot of legendaries in here that are going to see a steep drop because of the fact they aren't good for the secondary. They aren't good on the secondary market. They aren't viable in the meta. But this 100% is going to be seeing a lot of play. So expect a lot of Obi-Wans to be running around in any Cunning Heroic strategy. Especially see them in 𝐒𝐓 is really good because of the way you can chain 𝐒𝐓 with him. So just keep that in mind as we move on to Jabba the Hutt, his second Jabba the Hutt leader. We got a Jabba the Hutt from Shadow of the Galaxy. Now we got a Jabba the Hutt from Secrets of Power. We should have expected a Jabba the Hutt leader. He's on the box art. Anyways, action, pay 1, tap him. A friendly damage unit deals 1 damage to an enemy unit. If a friendly unit has 3 or more damage on it, it deals 2 damage instead. And then on his backside, he states when another friendly unit is dealt damage and survives, you may have that unit deal that much damage to an enemy unit, use his ability once per round. So basically, he's just a chip damage leader. That's really about it. He's basically in the 2 best colors for villainy. It basically means he's going to be playing every kill card in the game. People hate with a passion. But nonetheless, I mean, he's just a chip damage leader. Basically, just point at one of your guys that has damage, deal 1 damage to one of your opponent's things. If they have 3 or more damage on them, deal 2 damage to your opponent's things. And then basically over here, just, hey, did you know I'm going to swing in, kill something, and then how much damage I took back, I'm going to put that much damage on another unit once per turn. So it's a pretty neat card. Pretty okay card, 100%, but a pretty neat one, not going to lie. So I think it's got some interesting playability, but is it good? Heck no. I might eat those words. It might appear as one of those random leaders that suddenly take a PQ by storm or like get top 8 in a PQ and no one's like, what? But because again, it's in the coloration that people hate, Vigilance of Villainy, because you have Power to the Dark Side, you have Super Laser Blast, you have the Avenger, and depending on whatever you play, else you'll have other things you can do. So yeah, I know people are going to hate him that he's in that coloration, but still, I think he's got some neat effects on him. I mean, that chip damaging should not be scoffed at. It's a pretty good effect. I could see him already being kind of played in Tarkin Town to help push Tarkin down a little better, but I don't know. I want to kind of see what people really think about him, but still, I think he's a pretty cool leader. Pretty cool leader. Beloved Ortor is just a 3/2/3 that creates a spy token. Queen Amidala, another legendary. When played, just create 2 spy tokens because we just haven't had enough cards create spy tokens just yet. And then if damage would be dealt to this unit, you may defeat another friendly unit that shares a trait with this unit. If you do, prevent that much damage. So the aspect here is that because, again, she is a Naboo official, so again, she's naturally the colors of Mon Mothma, so you don't have to worry about that. But still, the aspect here is that you are able to basically create spy tokens, and then because we have all these officials sometimes creating spy tokens, we can basically just kill spy tokens so that we can keep Queen Amidala alive and constantly be smacking our opponent's base for 5 damage. Because anytime damage would be dealt to this unit, you may just defeat another friendly unit that shares that trait. So if you got enough spy tokens, you can murk spy tokens for days to officially make her unkillable in that sense. Or you can, of course, murk any one of your guys that are rested that you don't need anymore. So pretty cool. It only needs to share a trait. So if you can kill something with Naboo or something with official, that's pretty nice. It has some good staying power. It's kind of like the Darth Maul we saw from Shadow of the Galaxy, where if he's dealt damage, he can put that damage on another Underworld unit, so that the Underworld unit takes that damage and he doesn't. So a pretty cool card indeed. I'm glad we're kind of seeing another one of these, like if dealt damage or dealt any form of damage, you can just kill something else to deal that much to keep her alive, which is pretty neat. We have Renowned Dignitaries, more officials here for 6/5/6. Overwhelm, and when played, heal 2 damage from your base for each friendly official unit. Kind of really good for Mon Mothma, because again, she's going to spam officials. That's what her deck strategy is going to be. So this just tells me it's a Mon Mothma card. It's just going to be good for Mon Mothma. Because again, you want to spam officials and then you want to bring him out and then heal damage based on all your officials. The Elite Squad. It's an 8/6/8 with grit, and when played, when damage is dealt to this unit, you may deal 2 damage to another unique unit. So very interesting. So basically, it kind of gives you that sense of what Jabba wants to do here, what Jabba's kind of doing with that ping strategy. But still, I mean, it's a nice little ping strategy here. They're Imperial clone troopers, by the way. Because at this point, remember, since they're Imperial, the clones have now turned for the Empire after Order 66 and the fall of the Republic and the rise of the Empire. But an 8/6/8, I mean, yeah, it's got that grid, which is pretty nice, which means that like Jabba can definitely use this because on his backside, he'll be able to use that, how much damage you have on this thing. But still, is it good? I don't know. I mean, it's going to be a definite late game, but the effect of when played, when this unit is dealt, when damage is dealt to this unit, it may deal 2 damage to another unique unit. Is, I mean, I guess that when damage is dealt to this unit, I guess you can use like a 𝐒𝐓𝐀𝐾 Ventress on her front side to ping this for 1, because then technically a damage was dealt to this unit, and then technically you get the 2 extra then you could trigger that to deal 2 damage to a unique unit, but still. I guess it's a good grit card. I won't lie about that. I mean, the thing is literally a massive grit unit. I mean, it has 8 health points on it. So 7 points on it makes this a 13/1 at that point. So it can be pretty lethal when it gets high into that grit. Even 4 damage points on it makes it a 10 hitting guy. So yeah, I don't know. I'm not sold just yet on it as a rare, but still, it's a pretty neat one. I'm not going to lie, it's a pretty neat one. We have Corellian Hounds. If your opponent controls no ground units, this enters play ready. So pretty nice. It's a really good card to kind of counteract like a JTL meta. So if JTL leaders become very viable again, and they're kind of just spamming space bodies in the sky, and most JTL leaders don't really have a ground presence, bringing out a 5/5/5 and standing it is pretty good, because if you just need that 5 damage to win the game, or just push to try to win the game, that's a pretty good play right there. So it's very situational, because it's definitely going to be something like if your opponent doesn't have ground, it's nice to bring out. If your opponent's only a space thing, it's really nice. So it's kind of interesting. That's a neat little card there, indeed. We have the Hot Cartel Starfighter. When played, deal 2 damage to this unit. Again, kind of tells you it wants to kind of be playing around with Jabba, because then you immediately get Jabba's front side effect when this is immediately played. But otherwise, it does have the Underworld keyword tag, so it can be used for CAD. I wouldn't play it for CAD, but still, it's a okay fighter. It kind of just synergizes with Jabba, and that's really about it. Again, it is a 3/5. I wish it had grit. Honestly, I wish it had grit. There has been a big fat keyword called grit here, which would have been pretty nice, because of the fact that it would be nice, because it would have be a 5/5 at that, or a 5/3 at that point, because it only has 3 health points left. But still, I get why they're not going to give it grit. They don't want to overpower the this Hot Cartel Starfighter a little more than it needs to be, but I'm not sold on it. It's good synergy for Jabba, but that's really about it. I'm definitely not playing it for CAD, but still, even in like a draft format, it's still not bad. He comes in with 2 damage, so your opponent would have to deal with it in the sky. So it's a 3/5. Not bad. We got another Captain Rex, everybody. Another Captain Rex unit for 6/7/7 and Vigilance Heroic. When played, when this unit completes an attack, this unit and an enemy unit gain Sentinel for the phase. So yeah, it's a kind of an interesting one. The fact that when he swings, he has to give someone Sentinel. I don't know if I like that, because again, well, I guess not really. I guess it kind of matters, because if it's the last thing to swing and it's all you have like to swing, you can get him Sentinel and a unit your opponent has Sentinel for the phase. So it's interesting. I guess it could also counteract a lot of the hidden stuff, because hidden technically cannot. A card only hides itself as long as it doesn't have Sentinel. So he could technically like swing, give a hidden card Sentinel, and then because it now has Sentinel, you have to crash into it, because it's by game mechanic, you have to crash into Sentinels. So it's interesting. You could do that to try to counteract hidden cards, so that counteracts it. But still, it's nice. I mean, he does come in with that 7/7, and he gives himself Sentinel, which is pretty nice, meaning that he can swing, deal 7 damage, and then start protecting your base from your opponent, which is pretty nice. And he is a 7/7 for a 6 cost, which is really good there. So if he can survive and then next turn swing, hit your opponent's base and then die, then on your 7th turn, you could drop like Luke Skywalker, Jedi Knight, and give something -6/6. So you could give something like the Sentinel you gave -6/6 for the turn, which is pretty nice. So pretty cool card. I'm not gonna lie, a pretty good, pretty interesting card there. Again, it is a clone as well, so 𝐒𝐓𝐾𝐄 can play it as well, but I'm not so sure on that, giving your opponent a Sentinel, but still, like I said, there is the aspect where you could give it to a hidden unit, and then because it now has Sentinel, you have to crash into it. So I guess it's a good way to like counteract hidden cards that are coming in hidden. Other than that, I think it has some good playability. I mean, say for instance, this is your only ground unit and most of your stuff is in space. There's a great way to like counteract that. So you could easily be able to give a ground unit Sentinel, and then because I'm in space, it doesn't matter if it has Sentinel. So yeah, it's a pretty cool card, not gonna lie. We have the Synod Warden. When defeated, may disclose vigilance. If you do, give an experience over your unit. It's a 2/2/2. So not too bad to just like play as your first turn play and a lot of vigilance strategies. We have Karis Nemik. He does come in hidden. He is a 2/3/2. And when defeated, may disclose aggression heroic. If you do, create a spy token and ready it. Pretty nice there. I mean, that is literally really nice. You have a 3/2 that can swing into something, can kill a lot of like 2 drops, even 3 drops for the turn, and then you can just create a ready spy token, which is pretty nice as long as you can disclose this. So that's a pretty nice card. Not gonna lie on that one. It's also a rebel tag as well, so Leia does have some good playability with it. Then we have another legendary in Nemik's Manifesto. Attached to a non-vehicle unit. Attached unit gains the Rebel trait. At when defeated, deal 1 damage to each enemy base for each other friendly Rebel unit. A really good card, again, for that Leia Spark of Rebellion strategy. I like that we're kind of seeing maybe some of the older leaders get that last push for them. Again, it's also really nice because, again, typically Luthen Raohl might play a lot of Rebel units in his strategy because, again, a lot of heroic aggression, heroic cards are got the Rebel tag naturally attached to them. So this gives you yet another Rebel tag as well. Is it a good legendary that's going to see some play? Probably not. Is it going to fall? Probably. But still, I mean, I'm already kind of thinking of maybe Luthen Raohl can use this card. Maybe Leia for Spark of Rebellion can use this card. So, yeah, I think it's a pretty interesting card indeed. Not the best card out there, but a pretty interesting one indeed. So, yeah, pretty neat. I don't know why this needs to be a legendary. But again, like I said, most cards in here are legendaries, and you're like questioning why they have to be legendaries. But, it's an okay legendary. It's an okay one. I do like it for Leia, though. Leia, like a Leia red strategy, Leia Spark of Rebellion red strategy is pretty good. We have Saul Guerrera's U-Wing. It's got a 6/4/8 Saboteur, and when this unit completes an attack and survives, you may attack with another aggression unit, just any aggression unit, as long as it's aggression. Doesn't care if it's aggression heroic, as long as it's got the aggression tag. So, pretty cool unit right there. Another great way to kind of combo with the Leia from Spark Rebellion, which is pretty cool. Again, it does want to attack stuff, so it could attack the base and then allow you to attack with something else. It's also good for Luthen Raohl because, again, you want to be able to attack with another aggression unit and then help trigger with Luthen Raohl's ability. So it's a pretty interesting one. It's a nice, interesting card. It definitely has two places in like Leia Spark Rebellion and with Luthen Raohl for what they want to do. Fully armed and operational. You'll be surprised that this space station is fully armed and operational. An opponent attacked your base during their previous action. So basically, as long as one of their actions was the action that got passed to you was them attacking you, this phase, play a unit from your hand, giving ambush for the phase, and then you can plot it out as well. Okay, so most plot cards we've seen aren't good. This definitely feels like a plot card that's probably going to see some play. Now, the big problem is that plot. So, personally to me, it's not a good plot card to plot out because it's going to be so situational if you can even get it out because, again, your leader basically, because it has to be their previous action was to attack the base. Now, most units, if they're out, they can attack, they can do stuff, but again, their previous action has to been to attack. But again, the fact is, since plot was comes out the turn you play out your leader, you can still bring out your leader and then plot this out to then destroy something. I can see Trench using this card 100%. Again, Trench would be the most restrictive of the leaders who use this, but I can see Trench like in the late game using this 100% to do interesting things. I can see a lot of yellow villainy leaders using this for that plot, so they flip over their leader and then plot this out and then bring out a unit with ambush. This is pretty good if you want to play like a blue strategy because of the ambush keyword here. So you can, as long as you have long as you're at 7 resources, you can bring out your leader, then go plot out for fully armed and operational. Then you bring out the Darth Vader from LOF. Like I said before, you give a shield token to one unit, you ambush into the other unit, kill the unit with the shield token, and then kill 2 birds with 1 stone. So this card I definitely will see some play. Is it going to see a lot of plot play? I don't know. It's definitely going to be seeing more play maybe from hand for its effect, but still, pretty cool card to really make it like your opponent has more guys facing up on the board. As long as one of them's attacked your base, you can easily be able to ambush something to try to deal with the rest of your opponent's board state. So a very interesting, good just counterplay card that you can play for the turn. Really good kind of like counterplay card. I believe this shall be our final leader for the set, and that being Cassian Andor. Again, this is the Cassian Andor from, of course, when we first met Cassian Andor being, of course, Rogue One, because his action is climb, where they're climbing up the data vault to try to get up to the antenna so they can send the Death Star plans to the Profundity. So Cassian Andor states on his front side is that friendly units that have damage in an opponent's base can't be attacked. So basically, unless they are Sentinels, basically he's just giving all your units hidden for the phase. So it's really cool. So if you swing in your opponent's base, your opponent can't actually counteract them with their own guys. So it turns this into a very interesting aspect where this leader becomes kind of very interesting to play, because as long as I can attack with my big units on my base, my opponent can't then counteract or attack them. So it turns into this thing where my opponent might have to be taking the initiative so that so they can kill my stuff off before I swing and then turn all my friendly units into hidden guys. And then Cassian Andor's backside is very interesting as well. He has Overwhelm. He's a 6/2. While you have the initiative, this unit isn't defeated by having no remaining HP and can't be defeated by enemy card abilities. So as long as you have the initiative for the entirety of the turn, he cannot die. And as long as you continue to keep the initiative, you can keep pumping damage onto him, and he physically cannot die because of the state of it. But the aspect here is that your opponent can take the initiative at any point while he has any form of at least 2+ damage on him, and he dies. The interesting fact is that your opponent also, if they are in Vigilance, you got to be very cautious of this one. Someone pointed out to locals when we were talking about this, is that Perilous Position, which is the -2/-2 rest your opponent's unit, kills this guy instantaneously. Meaning that if you want to keep him, you would immediately have to be able to take the initiative or get the upgrade off of him so that he doesn't immediately die. So there is that caveat there that a Perilous Position just auto kills this leader, because the fact is you'll get the -2/-2, meaning that the only way to keep him to survive would immediately be able to take the initiative. Otherwise, your opponent just takes the initiative that turn, and then he immediately just dies off as your next action, because technically you no longer have the initiative, so he no longer can survive. So, is he cool? Yeah, he's definitely a very cool leader, and I think there are some very interesting things you can play with him. That giving your stuff hidden after they attack the base is very neat. A really cool card to actually play with Saw Gerrera's like U-Wing in this strategy, because you'll be able to swing the U-Wing into your opponent's base, giving itself hidden, and then attacking with another aggression unit, and then giving that hidden, all while Cassian is on his front side. Now again, they only stay hidden while they are on your front side, but still, a 6/6/2 with Overwhelm, which can punch over most stuff, and as long as you have the initiative, doesn't die, which is pretty nice. So just got to be cautious of the fact that that initiative is the only thing keeping him alive. But once your opponent takes it, he will die. So I think there's some really interesting ways that he can be played. I think he's a rare leader, by the way, as well. Yeah, he's a rare leader. So I think there's some very interesting things you can do with him, and I like where he's gotten written as a card. So it'd be very interesting to see if we get more cards written like this, because I think Turret's the only other leader that if he gets, I think it's until like the regrouping phase passes that he can't die by having damage on him, having the mass amounts of damage on him. Turret's the only other card that kind of has this kind of same card effect as well. So yeah, it would be very interesting to see how people want to play around with this leader. I kind of want to try out this leader as well, because I think that giving his stuff hidden on your front side is very, very powerful to your opponent, because then they can't counteract your bodies that you're spamming up on the board, so that they don't have to counteract it, but you can counteract their bodies, which is pretty nice. So we'll have to kind of see how this leader is kind of played. Again, he is in that aggression heroic, so there's a lot of really good stuff this leader has access to right now before post-rotation. Then we have Renewed Friendship. Return a unit from your discard pile to your hand, create 2 spy tokens. Just a good way to get stuff back to your hand and then just spam more spies. That's about it. And then we have the Lightmaker. I believe this is maybe our last legendary we are looking at. Yes, this is our last legendary we are looking at. I think this might be the last legendary for the entirety of the set as well. Again, if we see more cards, we'll do a 5th reveal before the official set release, but I think this should just be it. I think we've seen every single card now in this set. Maybe some, like I say, maybe most of the cards we will see come out are probably just fodder cards for like draft purposes, for sealed purposes. They aren't maybe going to see a lot of play besides draft and sealeds. So anyways, the Lightmaker, another legendary that's actually going to see a lot of play. A 5/3/4 with raid 4 on it. I believe this is the highest raid that we have so far on a unit. This unit swings for 5 and 7 in space. When defeated, choose an arena, exhaust each enemy unit in that arena. So basically, this is just an outmaneuver on a body. So outmaneuver states on it that you can pay 3, I believe. And then you choose an arena, and then you rest all units in that arena. Or at least all your opponent's unit in an arena. I don't know if it rests yours as well, but I know for a fact it at least rests all your opponent's units in that arena. So, this is just an outmaneuver on a body that swings for 7 in space. So, that can, if your opponent decides to kill it, just rest all your opponents. So, if your opponent still has active units on the ground, and this dies, well, then they just go get rested. And then maybe you can swing in your guys and start punching over stuff. So, a really cool legendary again, and Cunning Heroic. It feels like Cunning Heroic gets all the really good stuff. It feels like Cunning gets all the good cards. Really, Cunning just gets all the good stuff. But nonetheless, a really good card here. I like the art on this one. This is actually a really cool art. I like the whole entire space battle that's happening over there. TIE fighters, X-wings, like the real like dogfight mechanic that you would see like in the aspect of like the Galactic Civil War. Because again, there were more TIE fighters than there were X-wing pilots out there. Because remember, TIE fighters were cheap to make and cheap to produce your coffin jockeys in TIE fighters. So it's really cool. We got this like really neat space battle here. As we got the capital class, this vessel. I have an idea. I believe this might be from the Rebel TV show. That might be where the light maker is, because the hammerheads were shown in that TV show. So that might be where it is. I don't know. But nonetheless, I like the art in the card. I'm gushing over the art, but as being a Star Wars fan, and seeing art like this, that really pleases to me as someone. Like really cool space battles happening around you as like X-wings and TIE fighters fight it out. The Rebellion's best fighter against the mass-produced Imperial fighter. So yeah, I love the card. It's a really good card. Definitely expect to see a lot of this. I expect to see this card charging some money on the secondary market, alongside, of course, Mr. Obi-Wan Kenobi. But yeah, like I said, there are always going to be those very few legendaries that are going to ask a price on the secondary market. There's going to be those that are going to stay that price for a good chunk of time while they are meta viable. And then there are going to be those cards that are like the Grand Inquisitor had a cost up there. He was pretty expensive when he first got released in the set, but over time he drops down in price because he's not good anymore, or he's not really played in a meta viable strategy anymore. And then you have the legendaries that automatically get immediately released, like Munch-and-Roe. I thought was going to make a big splash in the meta. He didn't make any splash and immediately went down to like a couple dollars. Immediately a couple dollars, only like after a couple months of the set being out. So there are always going to be that. I expect like Lightmaker. I expect like Obi-Wan Kenobi to hold some good value in the secondary markets. I think these cards have strong viability for heroic cunning strategies. And then other cards, like we've seen, like Namex Manifesto, other legendaries. I expect like Amidala is going to be like that, one of those legendaries that hold like a pretty good price after release, but are going to fall pretty quickly. Like cards like those that we've seen, whereas like, yeah, like Let's Talk, I see this one immediately dropping pretty quick in price. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what legendaries actually hold price. Again, legendary only holds a price based on how meta relevant it is for deck strategies or how much people want it. So enough about that, about legendaries and market pricing and talking. Really good card. We have an Heroic Arc 170. When played, if you control a damaged unit, you may deal 2 damage to an enemy unit. So pretty nice. So basically a nice like, I have a damaged unit on the board. I can deal 2 damage. It's also a nice unit to play in like Luke Skywalker because of having Red 5 or any strategy where Red 5 is a card in the deck, because you can play this on your turn 5 play, deal 2 damage to something as long as you control a damaged unit. And then Red 5 can deal 2 damage to that unit, killing it off potentially. And then you have Luke Skywalker as well. So just something to think about for that Luke JTL leader that's running around. Anyways, we got bases. There you go, folks. Arts of bases. So there are no rare bases in this set at all. No rare bases. So it sounds like what they're going to do is every couple of sets they're going to release a rare base, and then every couple of sets they're not going to release a rare base. It sounds that same way for legacy cards as well. The cards with the big L's on them that are from the legacy era of Star Wars, like KOTOR, are going to be every couple of sets we'll get some legacy cards, and then every couple of sets we won't get legacy cards. So I like that we're not going to always see every set's going to have a rare base. Not every set's going to have like legacy support or legacy cards in it or anything like that, or legends cards. They're legends cards, not legacy support. Legacy cards, legends cards. Not every set's going to have legend cards, and not every set's going to have a rare base. So I like that. I like that we're just getting some back to good old 30 health common bases. So anyways, for the rest of our cards, a lot of this feels like they're just spilling out the last of the cards. Here's the stuff that, you know, a lot of this is just going to be seeing only real play, maybe rarely in maybe Premier, more or less see play more in just like draft or sealed formats. We got an escape pod 103 that when played, you may have this unit capture a friendly non-vehicle unit leader unit. So nice, just a great way to capture something and force your opponent to have to come after this to kill it. You have the Umbreon, the Umbreon on the Umbreon, the Umbreon, not Umbreon, the Umbreon mobile cannon. I like that we're seeing a little bit more art from Star Wars: The Clone Wars. This was a pretty big arc in Star Wars: The Clone Wars. This was Umbro. I forget the name of the planet, but it's a planet covered in pure darkness that's loyal to the Separatists, that has unique technology that's not been seen before. So the Republic attacks it, and then this is where we meet Prong Krell as he takes over control of Rex's unit, the 501st. And then that's where we learn like Prong Krell is evil and all of that. But it's cool to see we're getting some more arts around like Star Wars: The Clone Wars series. But anyways, it's a 6/7/3. The first time this unit would be dealt damage phase, prevent that damage. So there's a nice way that, you know, you can swing over your opponent's stuff for 7 damage and then be like, well, I don't take any damage for this phase. Come kill me instead, and then take 7 damage back on your own body. So pretty cool card. Scour the Archives. Search the top 8 cards of your deck for an upgrade, reveal it, and draw it, and then basically put the rest on your bottom of your deck in a random order. This actually is pretty nice for Kylo Ren. I'm not going to lie, Kylo LOF is probably going to be using this card because this allows you to get those upgrades that you need, like lightsabers, like the snapshot reflexes. Just get you those upgrades that you need in your hand, and then you can immediately pitch that out and then draw another card. So pretty cool. Pretty cool card there. I definitely will be playing this in like a Kylo LOF strategy just to search out those upgrade cards that I need in my hand. Like maybe I'm looking for a lightsaber, maybe I'm looking for like snapshot reflexes, those cards I need for the turn to flip Kylo over. So pretty cool card there. Relief request, healed 3 damage from a unit, and then if you may disclose vigilance, a vigilance card if you heal 3 damage from another unit. A nice card. Again, really will only see play in the draft or sealed format. An Imperial Dark Trooper 2/3/3. This is going to see a lot of play in anything that's command villainy because it's just a 3/3 that's on a 2-drop body. So I expect to see a lot of this as a lot of turn 1 plays for a command villainy cards. Senator's Aid. If you have initiative, this unit gets +2/+0. So just a nice way. If you have initiative, you can swing with a unit. That's okay. Diplomatic Envoy. When played, you may disclose command. If you do, the next unit you play this phase gains ambush. So kind of really nice way. A really nice card also to maybe play with Drain Boss. A good just generic card also to play in command period. That the next card that you play this phase just gains ambush. So you definitely won't be playing this until late game. In the late game, because of the fact that you need you will need not to have not burnt most of your resources, because if you play this on turn 2, you're going to disclose a command to run a 1-drop green card into your opponent. So that's really about it, but still a neat card for like a late game push if you ever need it. The Shadow Crawler for 7/6/7 with ambush. That's really about it. It might as well just be vanilla. Still a 6-cost card that ambushes. I believe it's also referencing the Battle of the Umbren. Umbren, I think the planet was Umbren. I forget the name of the planet. But I believe that's also what this this battle is about. The Freefrix Uprising. This, of course, comes into the massacre that, of course, then splits, truly begins Mon Mothma's great speak, and then basically splits her to the rebellion, fully control of the rebellion, and then brings the rebellion into its full might. Again, Deidre used this to try to weed out the rebellion itself. So, basically, it does the exact same thing Yoda does. So, Yoda, typically on 8 play, will then burn the Force. You heal 5 damage from your base, and when you use the Force, you may deal damage to one of your opponent's unit, double the amount of units you have on them, twice the amount of units you have on the board. So, if you have 3 units, And then when you do that, you deal 6 damage to a something. Deal damage to a unit equal to twice the number of units you control in its arena. So basically, if you've got a good space arena, you need to nuke a space arena guy off the board, or if you need to nuke a good ground unit off the board, this is not too bad, especially if you got enough bodies, especially if you spammed a bunch of spies on the board, then you could just use all those spies, then double. So if you got like 3 spies, you can deal 6 damage to 1 unit on your turn 4 play, which is pretty nice. Again, a card I don't know if it will see play in Premier, but a card that will definitely be good for your draft or seal purposes. We got the Muckraker Crab droid. When this unit is ready, it can't be attacked. So as long as this unit is a ready unit, basically it can't be attacked. That's all about it. We got Chairman Paradonia for double red here. When a player draws 1 or more cards during your action phase, you may disclose double red. If you do, create a spy token. Congratulations. Pray and hope your opponent's on a strange draw strategy that they can do. But yeah, so that's about it for him. He's just an official 2/6 that if you, for some odd reason, your opponent's drawing more cards per turn, if they got a draw engine in their deck, you get to create spies. Next up, we got the Contraband Star Hopper, just a 2/3 vanilla, kind of good maybe for Cad Bane because it's got that Underworld tag on it. And then you got the Coruscant Undercity Police, a 4/5/4 vanilla, might see some play. Republic Warwalker, 6/7/6 with Overwhelm. Yeah, it's kind of feels like these are all just draft cards, if cards for draft or for seal purposes. But the Overwhelm, the 6/7/6 is pretty nice, though. Shouldn't scoff at that. That's still a pretty nice card. Emissaries from Ryloth, when played, give an enemy unit -3 for this phase. That's actually a pretty good card there. It does have the official traits, so it can be used with Mon Mothma. Again, Emissaries from Ryloth, really good card. Again, that -3 should never be scoffed at, because again, being able to get something -3 and then being able to run one of your units into it, take less damage and potentially kill the unit is a pretty nice thing. You have this Skyhopper Canyon Runner for 1/1/4. That's really about it. Vanilla. Regulations Bureaucrat, action to exhaust a resource. That's a pretty good card right there, because that does allow you to exhaust your opponent's resources, which can be quite a nuisance for them. Shortening out some of their plays and forcing your opponent to have to come and attack it, which is pretty nice. We have the Zinwest Shadow Fighter, again, the War of Umbria, the Umber War on the planet. Like that, we got 3 cards for that arc of Star Wars: The Clone Wars. A 2/2/2 Hidden, that's a pretty good card right there. A nice, good, like, turn 1 starter play in the space. It's also really good for Vader as well, because it's a fighter, so that does mean that Vader Yellow is probably going to play this, because it's a 2/2/2 and space and hidden. So that does mean that it's a pretty nice card to play and have for future plays for Vader to then be able to start spamming tie tokens. A hired Slicer for 3/3/4. On attack, reveal top 2 cards of your deck. If you do, you may exhaust a unit that shares a trait with one of those cards. Put those cards at the bottom of your deck in any random order. Good luck with that one. I pray and hope your opponent's got the same traits that you got. So that's all I'm going to say about that. That may never see play at all. That may just be a 3/3/4 for just draft purposes, just so you have a body. Otherwise, good luck ever getting that effect to go off. We got the Duchess Investigators. When played, you may disclose cunning. If you do, each opponent discards a random card from their hand. Really good for Sabe. Really good as well for Twin Suns, by the way, but still pretty good. This will definitely will see some play, because it's just a disclose of cunning card. Your opponent has to discard 1 card from their hand, which again, really good. Sabe will probably be playing that as well. Special modification, attach to a vehicle unit for 2. 1/3. When played, attached to use a transport, you may create a spy token. This is really good for like Rio Durgent, because Rio Durgent typically likes to play transports because he wants to be under a transport. So this would be really good for you to play under a transport, creating a spy token, and then giving it an extra 3 health buff, and then Rio Durgent flipping for 5 under a transport, and then giving him the buff as well, which is pretty nice. Accelerate our plans for 1 cost. Exhaust a friendly unit. If you do, attack with another unit, it gets +3/+0 for the turn. A pretty okay card. It's just a strike true with an extra step on it. Or not a strike true. First strike. Surprise strike. So it's a surprise strike with just 1 extra step attached to it. So that's really about it. It's just 1 cheaper than Surprise Strike, but Surprise Strike will definitely still be played until rotation. So this is just a Surprise Strike that we will see post rotation that will give us one extra with just one extra step. But again, if you rest like a Sentinel or like a token or something like that, then it's not too bad of a thing to play out that turn or anything like that. It's also kind of good for like the Grand Inquisitor if you really wanted to do stuff with that. It's not actually, you can also rest any leader unit as well. So an interesting card indeed. We got a Crate Veteran. It does have the resistance tag. It's a 3/4/3. Again, just kind of a vanilla card for you to draft. Kind of a okay card to play. Like I said, it's good for Holdo though, because it has that resistance tag on it. Then we got all of just the neutrals. The ASP Laborer, a restore 1/2/1/4. Definitely just definitely a draft card. The Inspector's Shuttle 2/1/3. When played, name a card. That opponent reveals their hand. For each copy of named card in their hand, get an experience token to this unit. That's really about it. I mean, maybe get lucky and you can use it for Sabe, but that's really about it. Inspiring Senator. When defeated, the next official unit you play costs 1 less. That's actually pretty nice for Mon Mothma, because she'll have a bunch of officials in the deck, so not too bad of a card for her. Assassin's Probe. When defeated, deal 1 damage to each exhausted enemy ground unit. Okay, not great, but it's not too bad. And then Clandestine Connections. Attached unit gains on attack. You may pay 2. If you deal 2 damage to a base. Actually, that's pretty not too bad there. That's just some extra damage on an opponent's base. So I could definitely see that maybe making it to Premier. Maybe side decking for Premier. Funny enough, this is an upgrade. So maybe Kylo will play this. He won't maybe attach him after you attach a whole bunch of stuff on Kylo. And then swing Kylo and then use the ability to deal an extra 2 damage to base. It's just a great way to close out games. That's all I'm going to say about it. And then we got our experience art of Luthen Raoul dressing himself up to look like when he's over on Coruscant selling his goods. And that's it for part 4, folks. 266 cards. Yeah, we've gotten most of this set. I think maybe we might have a few more reveals. Like maybe they're revealing some of the arts for they might reveal some arts for the showcases and stuff like that, prestiges. Like we already have a showcase, the Leia showcase looks pretty good. We already have our experience, we have our spies. By the way, they do have the official keyword tag. But yeah, I mean, the set is nearly ours, folks. There's probably not much else that's really going to get revealed to us. And all of that. So I don't expect much more to get revealed, and what more we might get revealed might just be straight up like your common, uncommon bulk folder stuff that you might use in like your draft or your seal purposes just to try to build a deck around. So that's kind of what I'm going to see is the rest of this stuff kind of gets released. It's just going to be that bulk stuff that you're using for draft and seal purposes that fills out the remainder of the set that you'll never play in Premiere. You might play in Premiere based on the leader. You play with like Rio Durgent, like Sabe, like Mon Mothma, maybe someone who really wants to do that extra 2 damage. I could see this in like Kylo, like Mon Mothma, maybe Cad Bane. Maybe this is probably going to play in a lot of green strategies. This will be played a lot because it's a really good vigilance card. So yeah, I mean, the set looks really good though. Don't get me wrong. The set looks amazing. The Cassian Andor leader, the Light Maker, fully armed and operational Rex, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Queen Amidala, Oppression Breeds Rebellion. Dryan Voss might be annoying, but I think he's actually going to be he should be a cool leader to play around with. Knowing leader, another really good card for Cad, a really cool card for like Luke. Let's Talk being interesting. I like the Valiant Commandos, the Eye of Aldeana. The Kaz is okay. The Sabe is an amazing leader. I like the Soul Swan, Diplomatic Immunity is pretty cool. General Grievous, I think, has a neat tech feature for himself. But yeah, I mean, the set looks absolutely amazing. I don't know what's all going to come out meta. I have to expect Dryan Boss. I have to expect Sabe to be meta viable. I expect some of our older strategies to be meta viable as well. I expect some control strategies to start popping up in the late. I expect like Trench or Iden to make some splashes. They have new cards they can kind of play around with. I expect some leaders to be some kind of fringe leader. Maybe they could get tops here and there based on luck of the draw. But yeah, I think everything's just fun. This set looks amazing, looks fun. It's got a lot of good cards in it. I think some legendaries are going to hold that price up there, so be cautious if you're looking to buy them. You're probably going to be paying them, especially if they become very meta buyable. But yeah, we're going to have to see what comes out of the sec. What like plot cards become good. What disclosed cards become good, and all of that. So like, we'll have to kind of see like what everyone's thinking about, what everyone wants to play, and all of that. But yeah, I want your thoughts, guys, down in the comments. What are your thoughts on all of the cards we have seen for Secrets of Power? We're only literally 2 weeks away from pre-release week, and then 3 weeks away from the official release date of Secrets of Power. As well as, if you didn't know, the intro to Battle of Hoth is out right now as well, so you guys can go buy that, and it's kind of like a set where you and a friend can pick up the cards and kind of learn the game in a very easy mechanical way. They kind of teach you the mechanics. It's basically, they got 2 pre-built decks that are already pre-built with everything you don't shuffle. You set them down, and then you just follow the instructions they tell you what to do, and then you will go through the game as it is, giving you a good feel for how the game plays, the flow of the mechanics and all of that, and then you can shuffle both decks up and then play a real game with it. So those are out as well. You can't play them in Premiere. You could do it like casual if your friends wanted to play them. But you can't play it in Premiere until the release of Set 6. So we'll have all of those cards in Set 6, even though I think only a very few amount of those cards will ever actually see play. Most of them are just hot, straight garbage. Some of them are, we'll see some fringe play depending on the deck strategy. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on everything. And well, if we do have a part 5 before the official release, we will be back for that. Otherwise, this should be our last discussion video for everything revealed for Secrets of Power. Of course, unless we got more cards, and then we'll talk more before the official release date. But nonetheless, let me know everything down in the comments. Let me know the leaders you want to build first in the game. And while you're commenting, do make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell so you're notified when my videos go live for you. I will see you next time on Mon Dragons TCG.